Hello there. They call me Mystery. Now, I know I have touched on this topic before, but it just keeps on coming up in conversation, and I feel like I have to go into it just a little bit more. People seem to be convinced that we live in a democracy today. But just because a nation describes themselves as democratic does not make it true. Democracy is a way of organizing society in order to make collective decisions based on majority rules. It has nothing to do with parliaments, senates, politicians, election campaigns, party membership. That is all bureaucracy and show. Part of the game that keeps you bedazzled while the ruling classes get on with business. Literally. The real question is, if we don't have a society based on democracy, then what the hell is it? The answer will scare you.
My name is Mystery. For reasons unknown, I have been thrown back into the past almost 100 years, and this is my story.
Democracy is about rule by the people in the original Greek sense. Now, you can tell me who the people are in your society today, but usually on the national level, the people are its citizens, its legally recognized constituents. So, by definition, democracy should deal with all the people that have membership in a country. This rule by the people has the connotation that there is an active role to be played by the people. They rule or control over the organisation of society by taking up an active role in it, in the form of a direct responsibility. Democracy, in its truest sense, is direct. It requires the input of all eligible people in decision making. In the democratic cultures of ancient Greece, the people, although legally recognised as people with rights, would come together to vote on matters affecting them all. A majority rules kind of situation, but one that requires citizens' input, not a system of representatives. Therefore, there is no democracy in the world today. Now, let me tell you, they set up their system to exclude people, not for inclusion. They were sick of kings and aristocrats making the calls, so they set up a system to exclude them. They were scared of the masses of people getting a hold on political control, so they excluded them too. These liberal democracies established parliaments with houses full of representatives from among their ranks, representatives of the propertied class. Originally, you could only vote if you had property. In liberal democracies, decisions aren't made by the people directly, but through elected representatives who align with certain interests and who are chosen to make calls so that everyone else can just get on with business and accumulating wealth. The idea that there are two houses in parliamentary structures is to make sure that if the first house, the lower house, steps out of line and gets too radical, then they can be overruled by another house full of privileged people. Now let's fast forward a couple of hundred years from the origin of this modern political structure to today. And here we are with the same basic structures that for some reason we call democracy. Now let's just be clear here. Voting for an elected representative does not make it democracy. This is oligarchy with voting, ruled by a few, even though it's not forever. Now, that's the style of politics, but what if we went a little bit deeper? What is the situation? Now, there is a common misconception that dictatorships are just about, one evil person with supporters who is able to rally enough support or force people into following their direction en masse. But this is not the only way to have a dictatorship. Dictatorships can also be where one class of people rules over another. In that sense, we live in dictatorships today that are labelled democratic, so you don't think about them. In the US, for example, the system has been purposely rigged so that it is a two-party system. there are two parties which are both right-wing parties, one more conservative than the other, but both completely run in the interests of the property class and corporate interests. You, as an individual, can't run politically in this system unless you have party support and money, political donations I believe is the term, from big money interests. Already here, you have a screening process going on that overtly, but nonetheless, stops a majority of the population from ever being an option for political office. That right there is a characteristic of dictatorship, a system deliberately designed to only allow the dominant class, the one in control, access to the political hierarchy and to power. The two-party system is part of an illusion so the American people think they have some type of say in the matter. Now, this is not unique to the US and happens in most of the democracies of the world. There is a handful of political parties, largely supported by and made up of the property classes, the business interests in that country, who cycle power between themselves. Left or right parties, it doesn't matter. It's two sides of the same coin. Modern politics, political representation, is simply the controlling apparatus of the ruling classes today. Big money and special interests control the process, make the calls, and stop any way of people changing the system from the ground up. And if you protest it or resist, they have increasingly armed and militarized police forces at their disposal to get you back in line. Now, if that's not a dictatorship, I don't know what is. All I can say for certain, it's definitely not a democracy. And it's time we stopped calling it this so people can start to realize. Now, if you thought this was interesting, give it a like, leave a comment and share. And subscribe for more. There is much to learn before we can unlock the revolution. Remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery.